the Bengals. Certainly incredible disappointment here in greater Cincinnati and Bengals fans all over the country. I mean, you were right there again for, a trip to the Super Bowl. You're sitting there watching the game, Dan, and back and forth and this and that and missed opportunities and et cetera, et cetera. What stood out to you, a thing or two about the difference in winning and losing?
To me, the difference in the game was actually pretty simple. For everything that everybody said since that game, to me, it still comes down to which team put more pressure on the other team's quarterback.
Yep.
The Chiefs sacked Joe 5 times and hit him 12 quarterback hits. The Bengals, facing a quarterback playing on one healthy leg, sacked Patrick Mahomes twice. They're both mobile. Joe was the more mobile of the two on Sunday, considering he was healthier. So that was the game to me. The offensive line did an unbelievable job against Buffalo. Maybe they were helped a little bit by the snowy track. I don't know. But the Chiefs have a better pass rush. They were second in the NFL during the regular season in sacks. The Bengals couldn't block Chris Jones. Ultimately, that was the difference in the game. It's not like they ruin every play. It's just a couple, and that's all it takes. Chris Jones sacks Joe Burrow on the Bengals' last offensive snap. That's the difference. If he completes a 12-yard pass there, maybe they gain 15 more yards, kick a field goal at the gun, and win the game. But, just a few plays like that where you can't block Frank Clark or Chris Jones makes the difference in the game.
Dan, you live in the real world, okay? And oftentimes a lot of us, we get wrapped up in our favorite team. Maybe we're employed by a team, whatever it might be. But when you have emotional attachment, which you do with the Bengals, I do with the Bengals. I live here. Guys I'm working with every day, we're attached. You're rooting like crazy. You're bummed out for 3 or 4 days, even now. Just bummed out, feeling like the Bengals were the better team. But the bottom line is, and maybe it comes down to the point you just made a minute ago, and that's the offensive line. I don't know. Maybe it's something else. In the real world, there are going to be people out there, and I've been guilty as one of them. I'm not there yet. But if it happens another year, people are really going to start more than whispers. It's going to be a little bit loud talking about being able to finish and win the big one, especially for the Bengals offense. Before you came on, you were there. Last year during the playoffs, their offense was good enough to kick field goals. This year in the postseason, in 2 of the 3 games, the offense was just good enough to kick field goals. So, do you think there's at least a little bit more pressure now on this franchise because they're so close to winning the big one?
Yeah, sure. When you get to the doorstep, at some point, the pressure increases. They got within 1 win of the title last year. They got within 2 wins this year. So absolutely, that increases. Now, when you say that, I think there's a little bit of an implication of, well, who are we going to blame, right? Is it Zach? Is it the coordinator? I don't know. I don't feel that way. To say that you've got to win the big one, they've won a lot of big ones to get to this point. They haven't won the ultimate big one yet. I do think it's going to happen in the Joe Burrow era. And I do kind of think that, I've been joking, people like to bring up things in the Bengals past. They feel jinxed somehow. Nothing prior to Joe Burrow matters. Throw out 52 years of Bengals history. Let's focus on what this team's accomplished in the last 3. Those accomplishments are pretty darn good. And I do think they're going to get over the hump sometime soon.
I do too. I really, really do. I think that the entire franchise in every way, whether it's ownership, whether it's the coaching staff, hopefully they can hold that group together. I shouldn't say hopefully. Those guys, they've worked their way to get an opportunity to become a head coach, and God bless them if they do. I hope it happens. You think either one of those guys, Callahan or Anarumo, gets a head coaching job this offseason?
If I had to make a bet, I would say no, based on what's still out there. It might be 1 more year for either or both. It doesn't feel to me, based on everything I've read, that either of those guys is going to get hired, but we'll find out soon enough.
All right, your thoughts, Dan, on the Super Bowl. Maybe you don't care. Maybe you don't care. What, you do care?
I do care.
All right.
I have a rooting interest. It's the Philadelphia Eagles, and here's why.
All
Their
right.
head coach, Nick Sirianni, went to my high school. His dad was my high school science teacher. He was the high school football and track coach at my high school. I didn't play football after ninth grade, but I ran track for his father. His father was the most intimidating teacher in my high school. He had this Vulcan nerve pinch that he would do whenever kids misbehaved in his science class. So I am all in on the Philadelphia Eagles a week from Sunday.
That's a cool story. I think the son comes across as a pretty intimidating dude. It was nice to see a little bit, I don't know if softer side is the right word, but when his daughter, his three kids were up there on the podium, I don't know if you saw that press conference, and she's just kind of going, blah, blah, blah. I've heard all this kind of stuff before. I mean, what a job that guy has done. And that's a tough town to do it in, brother. You know as well as I do.
Yeah, 2 years, 2 playoff trips, Super Bowl in year 2. It's been pretty incredible. And go back to his initial news conference, this is the guy we hired news conference. It was a disaster. He could not have been worse in that initial news conference. Every Philadelphia Eagles fan was like hammering themselves, thinking, holy cow, who did we just hire? This guy can barely get a word out, but he was just so nervous. He didn't handle that well. Since then, he's been great. He's done a phenomenal job of coaching that team. So I'm all in on the Eagles. Go Philly.
Go Philly is right. I'm rooting for him too. Danny, we thank you for your time as always, sir, and all your insight. Have a great day and good luck on the broadcast tonight.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Thom. Let's do this again soon.